Yeah, hi guys, welcome back. In the last session, we discussed what is monolith architecture and what is microservices architecture. What are the drawbacks with the monolith architecture and what are the advantages with the microservices architecture? Can anyone quickly revise what is monolith and what is microservices, guys? Can anyone speak out in few simple words? Can you explain?
In microservices architecture, maintenance is easy. We can develop multiple REST APIs so that maintenance is easy and in microservices,
First of all, what is monolith?
Developing all functionalities.
All the functionalities in single application.
Sir, in monolithic, the entire application is tightly coupled. In microservices architecture, the application is loosely coupled.
Correct. So if you are going for monolithic architecture, then one project will be developed with all the requirements. Right. A single application will be developed with all the requirements at one place. If we do that, then it is called as monolith architecture based application. So there are several disadvantages with the monolith architecture. The maintenance will be difficult. Any small change in the code, whole application should be redeployed. Okay, dependency will be available from one functionality to another functionality. To overcome the problems of the monolithic architecture, we are going for microservices architecture. Microservices is not a technology. It is not an API. It is not a framework, guys. Microservices basically architectural design pattern. It is used to develop our application with a loosely coupling. Now here in the monolithic project, everything will be available in one place as a single application. Whereas in the microservices architecture, backend functionality will be developed as multiple services and front end will be available. When we access front end, perform some operation, request will go to backend APIs. In the backend, multiple REST APIs will be available. Every REST API is responsible to perform some operation. Then after, we discussed about microservices architecture. So as we discussed in the last session, there is no fixed architecture for the microservices project in the industry. People are customizing microservices architecture according to their project requirement. Whatever we can see here, this is generalized architecture that most of the projects are going to follow. Now, if you see in this architecture, service registry is available. So as we discussed already, service registry is used to register all the backend APIs at one place. Service registry acts as a DB of services available in the project. So all the backend APIs of our project will register with the service registry. Using service registry, we can see name of the service, URL of the service, and status of the service. Then after, we can see services. Services nothing but the backend REST APIs that we are developing in our application. Hotels API, flights API, trains API, like that, multiple services will be available. Multiple services will be available. Those services, whatever the backend services we are developing, here I'm taking welcome API, greet API, these services will register with the service registry. Okay, so Eureka, we are going to use as a service registry. Our backend services, backend APIs, API service, both are same. Backend services will register with the service registry. Service registry will provide a dashboard to monitor all our services. Now here, the backend services, one service can communicate with the database, another service can communicate with the third-party API, some other service will communicate with the other service in the same project. So inter-service communication will be available, DB communication will be available, external service communication also will be available in our services. Then after, we are having a concept called API gateway. So what is API gateway? API gateway is used to manage our backend APIs of the project. API gateway acts as mediator between the end users and backend APIs. So here my backend APIs will be available. So we don't give the access for the backend APIs directly. So any request which is coming to our application, that request should go through API gateway. API gateway will forward the request to our backend APIs. Are you clear with my point? Any request that is coming to our application will go to API gateway. API gateway will contain the filters and routings. Filters are used to filter the request, whether that request should be processed or not should not be processed will be decided by the filter. Routing is used to forward the request to particular backend API. That logic will be there in the API gateway. And next one, admin server will be available. Admin server is used to monitor all the backend API actuators at one place. Admin server is used to monitor all the backend API actuators at one place. And next one, Jipkin server is available. Jipkin server is used to distributed log tracing. Which request is coming? It is processing by which API that can be monitored by using this Jipkin server. So these are the common components that we can see in our microservices architecture project. So here service registry will be available, backend APIs will be available, inter-service communication with the FIAN client will be available, API gateway, admin server, and Jipkin server. This is called microservices architecture. Now, as per this architecture, we are going to develop a project that is called microservices architecture based project. So in order to do this, first I am going to create my service registry. Service registry, we are going to use Eureka server that will act as a service registry. So first let us start with our application development with the service registry. Okay guys, now steps to develop service registry application, Eureka server. Create the service registry project. For that we need to add Netflix Eureka server. In that service registry, we are going to use this annotation. Let me do that. Let me start my IDE. I will create service registry project first. I will create my service registry project first. Service registry 27 SBMS workspace. Click on launch. Now here, let's observe what we are going to do. Console. Clear this. Let me create a project with a service registry. File, new, Spring Starter project. So what is the number of our project here? 30 is completed, 31. File, new, Spring Starter project. So 31 application I'm creating, Spring Boot microservice service registry. So this application name I'm giving as service registry. Okay, Maven, jar file, in.ashok IT. Boot 2.7.10. Now you can see here, I'm using Spring Web Starter and Eureka. So Eureka server dependency I need to select. That is Spring Cloud component, Spring Cloud Netflix Eureka server. That is a library, Spring Cloud Netflix. Spring Cloud Netflix library providing Eureka server. Eureka server will act as a service registry for us. Okay guys, click on next, click on finish. So with this, my project got created. Let me reset my perspective. Window, perspective, reset perspective, reset this. Yeah, fine. So with this, my project is ready, guys. So service registry application got created. Close unrelated projects from that. Now here, go to pom.xml and see the dependencies that are available in our application. Boot 2.7.10 version I'm using, Java version 1.8, Web Starter and Starter Test dependency is available. Where is that? Spring Cloud Starter, guys. Spring Cloud Starter is not selected. Let me delete this project and create again. I think I missed to select the dependency. Yeah, File, new, Spring Starter project, Spring Boot microservice service registry. Next, I need to select web dependency and I need to select my Eureka server. Yes, now I have selected Eureka server, that is Spring Cloud Netflix Eureka server. Click on next and click on finish. Now my boot application is getting created. Boot application is getting created. Spring Boot microservice service registry. Go to pom.xml. In the pom.xml, we should be able to see Netflix Eureka server. Spring Boot starter web dependency available and Spring Cloud starter Netflix Eureka server dependency also available. Now, in order to make this application as a Eureka server, I'm going to use one annotation called enable Eureka server. One annotation I'm writing, that annotation name I'm giving as enable Eureka server. Yeah, enable Eureka server. Let's wait. Enable Eureka server, so that this application will act as a Eureka server. For this Eureka server, I'm going to configure port number. Let me change the properties file to the YML file. Go to YML file, server port number, server.port number. I'm configuring the port number as 8761. Server.port, I'm configuring 8761. By default, Eureka servers will run on the port number 8761. I have configured that port number. Update my Maven project. Maven, update this project. So I will tell you the reason why I am configuring the port number as 8761. If you configure the port number as 8761, then our backend APIs will auto-register with the Eureka server. If you don't configure the port number as 8761, then manually you need to register your backend APIs with the Eureka server. I will show you manual registration as well as auto registration. Currently, I'm giving port number as 8761. Guys, if you see, I have done two things. Created service registry application by adding Netflix Eureka server. Then after, we need to configure enable Eureka server annotation in the start class. Then after, I'm configuring a port number. Port number I'm configuring as 8761. I have given the comment also why I am going with the 8761. If service registry project port is 8761, then clients can discover service registry and will register automatically with the service registry. So clients nothing but our backend APIs. If a service registry port number is 8761, our backend APIs can auto register with the service registry. If service registry project running on any other port number, then we have to register clients with the service registry manually. Now, do you understand why I am going for the port number 8761? So if you give the port number as 8761, backend APIs will register with the service registry automatically. If you use different port number for service registry, manually you need to register your backend APIs with the service registry. Currently, I am going with 8761. I have changed from properties file to YML file. Now, refresh our project, run it, run as boot application. Now, this service registry application will run on the port number 8761. Okay, I have created the project. I have added a annotation, enable Eureka server. Then I changed the port number to 8761. That's it. And I have started my project. Let us see. Application behavior. Let us see the application behavior. Application still getting started. It is taking time to start the application. Yeah, finally started. We can see on the console that Netflix component Eureka server is getting started. Right. Eureka server started with the port number 8761. Now go to browser. Let us try to access that localhost colon 8761. When you send the request for this Eureka server application, you can see that Eureka dashboard is loaded. Did we develop this UI page or it is provided by Eureka? Guys, did I develop this UI page in the project or it is given by Eureka? So it is given by Eureka. So what are the steps that I have done? Simple. I created my service registry application with the Eureka server dependency. In the start class, I configured one annotation called enable Eureka server, and I have configured port number 8761. Good. After starting the application, I'm accessing the URL localhost colon 8761. When I access the URL localhost colon 8761, I'm able to access my Eureka dashboard. I'm able to access my URL Eureka dashboard. Here there is a problem. In the Eureka dashboard, it is showing instances currently registered with the Eureka. So one application is already registered with the Eureka. Which application? Same application. So I have created one Spring Boot application. In the Spring Boot application, Eureka server is running. Same application registered with the Eureka as a client. I don't want same application to register with the Eureka. This is my service registry project. That project should act as a server. Remaining projects should register with that server. But here, by default, when the project is started, same project registered with the Eureka server as a client. Instances currently registered with the Eureka. Same application registered with the Eureka. In which project Eureka server is running, same project is registered with the Eureka. I want to stop that. For this, I will write one property, client dot register with the Eureka. Let me give it as a false value. So this application should run on the port number 8761, but this application should not register with the Eureka server. So port number I am configuring and I am stopping this application to register with the Eureka. Eureka client register with Eureka is the false. Refresh. Now right click, run as boot application. Refresh, right click, run as boot application. Now with this, my application getting started. Once this application is started, go to browser and refresh. Refresh, access Eureka dashboard. Now my Eureka dashboard is accessible. Now you see instances currently registered with Eureka. Currently, any instance is registered with the Eureka. No instance is registered with Eureka. Guys, currently, any clients available for my Eureka or clients are not available. Instances currently registered. Instances nothing but my APIs, my backend APIs. Any backend APIs currently registered with the Eureka or my backend APIs not registered with Eureka. My backend APIs are not registered with the Eureka. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with my point? Good. So I hope you are clear how to develop service registry application by using Eureka server. Steps to develop service registry application by using Eureka. Created the project with this starter and added this annotation. And in the YML file, I have configured the port number and I have configured register with Eureka. Why I am configuring the port number? The port number I'm configuring as 8761 because my clients will auto register with the Eureka. Okay. Once it is done, guys, the next one with this point is completed. I have completed this step now. I created one project with Eureka server. It is running on the port number 8761. Now I will create admin server project. Let us see how to create the admin server project. So what is service registry? Service registry is used to monitor, is used to see all the backend services available in the project. I have created the project. Now I am going for admin server. Admin server is used to monitor and manage all the backend APIs at one place. Let me create my admin server project now. Is there any relation between Eureka and admin server, guys? If you see in the diagram, is there any relation between our service registry and admin server? Is there any relation between our service registry and admin server? No, there is no relation those are two different projects. Now, let's go here. Let me create that project. I'm creating that as a 32 project, file new Spring Starter project. So let me create this as 32 application, Spring Boot microservice. I'm making this project name as admin server. Click on next. Here also web dependency, and we need to select admin server dependency. Actually, this admin server dependency is not from the Spring, guys. It is from third-party company called CodeCentric. So from the CodeCentric, we are using this admin server dependency. You see here, when I'm creating the boot application, I'm selecting that as a admin. When I type it admin, it is coming as admin client and admin server. Currently, I want to create this admin server project. So that's why I'm selecting admin server dependency. Click on next and click on finish. So with this, admin server project is getting created. Let us see here. My admin server project is getting created. Go to that project and check the pom.xml. Go to that and check the pom.xml. So here, Spring Boot admin version 2.7.4. Okay, guys. Boot version is 2.7.10. Admin version 2.7.4. And here, web starter, admin starter server. So Spring Boot admin starter server dependency we have selected. So this is group ID from de.codecentric. This admin starter coming from CodeCentric. Now, once this project is created, let us go to our start class and let us add that annotation @enable admin server. I want to represent this application as a admin server. So let me select that. Enable @enable admin server. I got that annotation. That annotation I have imported. It is from CodeCentric. Okay, guys. Fine. After making that change, let us go to this and change the properties file to YML file. For admin server, I'm giving a different port number. In the project, you see, I'm giving the port number as 1111 for the admin server. You can give any number for this. There is no issue. Server.port, I'm giving 1111 for the admin server. Update this project. Maven, update this project. After this update, just refresh this project and run this project. Right. I'm going to run this admin server project. Currently, nothing is available. Just I created a project with admin server dependency, and I have added one annotation called enable admin server, and I changed the port number. So default will be 8080. I change it to 1111. Now run this admin server project now. It will run on the port number 1111. I'm running my admin server project. It will run on the port number 1111. It is getting started. Yes, application started. Okay, guys. Now go to browser and let us access this admin server. So I'm trying to access admin server, localhost : 1111. Right. Perfect. So whenever we access admin server URL, we are getting one UI. So in this UI, applications 0, instances 0, status all up. Now when I set no applications are registered. So basically our backend APIs will register with the admin server, and using this admin server, we can monitor activator endpoints of all the backend APIs. So currently backend APIs are not registered. Just I created my service registry and I created my admin server. So backend APIs development is not started. First I'm setting my servers ready. Service registry is ready and admin server is also ready. The development process is also very simple. Able to understand how I created service registry and how I created admin server, guys? Are you clear with my point? Are you clear with my point? How I created service registry and how I created admin server? Perfect. Next one is Zipkin server. So Zipkin is used for log tracing. How many services involved in the request processing? What is the time that is taken by service to process the request? That information can be monitored by using Jipkin server. Service registry project I developed, admin server project also I developed. Jipkin server, we no need to develop. Jipkin server is ready-made available. We can download from the internet and we can run the Jipkin server. So Jipkin server will run by default on the port number 9411. Jipkin server will run on the port number by default 9411. So let me go to the Google and let me download my Jipkin server. So Google Jipkin download. Jipkin download. Open Jipkin, a distributed tracing system. So official website is available, jipkin.io. So Jipkin is a distributed tracing system. It helps gather timing data needed to troubleshoot latency problems in the service architectures, include both collection and lookup of this data. So here it will help you to identify the tracing data, which service is taking how much time to process, right? So all that information you can get from the Jipkin server. Now here we can download Jipkin jar file. Okay, let us see here Jipkin quick start architecture. Quick start, go to the Jipkin quick start. So here in the Java, you will have latest Jipkin jar file. If you click on this quick start, you can see the Jipkin server Docker file is also available for the Jipkin, and you can go for Java jar file also. Latest release is available. If you click on this latest release, here Jipkin server jar is downloaded. Can you guys see the Jipkin jar is downloaded in my system? When I click on this latest release, go to jipkin.io, quick start, Java, latest release. When I click on this, my Jipkin jar file is downloaded. We need to just run that jar file by using java-jar Jipkin jar file. If you run that jar, Jipkin server will run in our system with the default port number, that is 9411. Now go to this location where the jar is available. So this is my jar file. Let me copy this jar into our folder, right? So 27 SBMS, yes. Now I'm keeping this jar in my location. Jipkin server jar is available. Open command prompt here and let me run that jar file. Jipkin jar file I will run. Java space -jar Jipkin jar file. I'm trying to execute Jipkin jar. So Jipkin server is getting started. So this is the banner of the Jipkin. Jipkin server is getting started. Jipkin server is running in my local machine with the port number 9411. 9411 is the default port number for the Jipkin server. Okay, guys. Good. Now let me go here and let me access Jipkin URL localhost :9411. So when I access localhost :9411, what happened? My Jipkin server is started. Now if you observe, I'm having Eureka server and I'm having admin server and I'm having Jipkin server. So 3 servers are ready, which are used to build our microservices, backend APIs. My backend APIs are just to REST APIs. We already spent 20 days to understand the REST API development. My REST APIs I need to build. My REST API will register with the service registry. Service registry will maintain list of services available in the project, name of the service, URL of the service, and status of the service. And my backend APIs will register with the admin server. Admin server is used to monitor and manage my APIs with actuator endpoints. Eureka is providing the UI to monitor the backend APIs. Admin server providing the UI to monitor and manage the actuators of the backend APIs. Jipkin server is also providing the UI to understand the issues that are occurring in our application with respect to latency. How much time it is taking to process our request that can be monitored from Jipkin server. Service registry project I created. Admin server project also I have created, but Jipkin server project I have not created. Jipkin server project I have downloaded as a jar file and I have executed that jar file. Jipkin server project I have downloaded as a jar, that jar I have executed. Now, if you see in my system, 3 servers are running. One is Eureka server running on the port number 8761. Second one is admin server running on the port number 1111. Jipkin server running on the system with the port number 9411. So with this total, 3 servers are running. With this total, 3 servers are running in my system. Are you guys clear with these 3 servers now? Are you guys clear with these 3 servers now? Any confusion? Anybody? Someone is asking, why don't you develop admin server and service registry in the single application? As it is a microservice application, you should not do that. Service registry purpose is different. Admin server purpose is different. We should not combine them in the single application. So admin server is one separate project. Service registry is one separate project. Jipkin server is one separate project. Service registry is used to monitor and manage our services. Admin service registry is used to monitor what are the services available. Admin server is used to monitor and manage activators of our backend APIs. Jipkin server is used to perform distributed tracing on our application. Are you clear? Are you
Sir,
guys
why
clear?
why we need Spring Web? It is only for registry and another
it's
one
not-
for admin.
Yeah, Spring Web is optional, sir. You don't need to add that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Service registry project created, admin server project created, Jipkin server project is also created. Now, what is the next step? What is the next step, guys? Now, creating backend.
Create the services.
This is the most important part now. Service registry created, admin server created, Jipkin server created. Now we need to build our backend API. Now, if you see, when we are creating the backend API, our backend API should register with the service registry. Our backend API should register with the admin server, and our backend API should register with the Jipkin server also. So it should act as a client for 3 servers: service registry, admin server, Jipkin server. Whatever the backend API we have, that backend API should register with the service registry, should register with the admin server, should register with the Jipkin server also. Now, creating that backend API is the most important part now. Creating the backend API is the most important part now. Now here, in order to develop that backend API, we need to add several dependencies, guys. In order to build that, we need to add several dependencies now. Okay, so what are the dependencies that we need to add to build our backend APIs? So let me show you what are the dependencies that we need to add. Okay, fine. So meanwhile, let me show you the development setup that I have done as of now. So I created service registry project and I have started admin server development and I completed that, and the Jipkin server also we have taken. So service registry created with these dependencies, and I configured this annotation in the start class of the service registry. These are the properties I configured in the YML. Port number I'm giving 8761. Same application should not register with the Eureka. That's why I'm giving register with Eureka as false. Once it is started, we are able to access our service URL. Right, that is service registry URL. Then after, I have created admin server project. In the admin server project, I'm using admin server dependency. In the start class, I'm using enable admin server annotation at the start class. Change the port number and run the application. Here I'm giving the port number as a 1111. You can give anything for that. Once admin server is started, then I have started Jipkin server. I'm not developing the Jipkin server project. I am downloading the Jipkin server. This is the URL. Once I download the Jipkin jar file, I'm running the jar file by using java-jar. Jipkin server will run by default on the port number 9411, and I'm able to access Jipkin jar file also. So step by step points are given how to set up these servers.
So
Step
what
by
is the
step
order
points are
of
given.
starting, sir?
Sorry?
What is the order of starting? This is how we should start. We should start one.
Currently, is there any relation between these 3 servers?
No.
Yeah, any order you can follow. There is no fixed order. You can first start the Jipkin, then you can start admin, then you can start Eureka. Or first you can start Eureka, then admin, then Jipkin. That's fine because these three are independent servers now.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, manual also you can develop Jipkin server.
Not required. So Jipkin server, you no need to develop that.
Okay.
It's a predefined server. It's a predefined project available in the jar format.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, some few configurations are not showing in this microservices architecture, like config server, load balancer,
Load
like as
balancer,
a RabbitMQ.
load balancer I have given here. Welcome API having 3 instances. RabbitMQ, Apache Kafka I will explain. So I have not mentioned in the diagram. So we'll discuss Apache Kafka config servers also. Those are part of our syllabus.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I have not mentioned in the diagram. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good guys. Fine. So with this
Hello,
we are able to complete our Eureka server creation, project creation, admin server creation, Jipkin server we have started. Now I need to build my backend API. So first I'm going to build one welcome API. That welcome API will act as a client for the Eureka, will act as a client for admin server, will act as a client for Jipkin server. Now, in order to build that application, what all the dependencies we need to add? Okay, guys. So we need to make this project as a client for Eureka. So we need to create project with Eureka client dependency. We need to create the REST controller for the web starter, dev tools, actuators, and Slate, Jipkin, and admin client. So like this, I'm going to create my backend API. You can see the steps here. Steps to develop the greet API and welcome API. So first I'm going to develop the welcome API. Then I'm going to develop the greet API. Okay, anything is fine. Either you can develop greet API first or you can develop welcome API first. We need to create 2 APIs in the backend. Okay, guys. So here, let me develop first the greet API. Steps to create the boot application with the below dependencies. So now here, I need to create one project with these dependencies. Now, let me go to here, IDE. Currently, 2 projects I developed. One project I'm running as a jar file. Let me stop these servers, guys. We will start them once again once our API is ready. Now, whatever the API I'm building, that API should register with Eureka, should register with admin server, should register with the Jipkin also. For that, file, new Spring Starter project. I'm creating 33 application. Spring Boot microservice. I'm creating this as greet API. Okay, click on next. Dependencies, we should be very careful. Web dependency, dev tools, web dependency, dev tools. Now it should register with the Eureka. So I need to add Eureka discovery client dependency. It should register with the admin. So we need to select admin client dependency. It should register with the Jipkin. So I need to select the Jipkin. To communicate with the Jipkin, we need a Slate dependency. So let me add the Slate dependency. Slate is not coming. We'll see that why it is not coming. Manually, we can add that Jipkin. When I go for the Jipkin, so is it providing the Slate? Jipkin dependency I'm taking. So here, Slate dependency is not coming. Only Jipkin dependency is coming. Slate is not coming. We will check why it is not coming. Export the IDs. So Jipkin, Slate dependency not coming, guys. We'll check why Slate is not coming. Now, so see here, what are the dependencies that I need to select? Discovery client. I have selected discovery client dependency. Then I need to select web starter, dev tools, actuator. Actuator is required to monitor our application. So actuator dependency I have selected. Slate is not coming here. I have selected Jipkin and I have selected admin client also. Good. Next and finish. So with this, I have created one backend API, guys. So that is my greet API. So this backend API should act as a Eureka client. So for that, I'm writing one annotation called enable discovery client. So it should identify where the Eureka server is running and it has to register with the Eureka server. Enable discovery client, I'm writing. And go to our properties file, change this properties file to YML file. I'm changing this to YML file. Here we can configure port number, server.port. You can give any port number for this. It is a greet API. I'm giving the port number as 9091, any port number. And I need to enable actuator endpoints and I need to register this project with Eureka, with admin, with Zipkin. Now, with Eureka registration, you no need to do anything, guys, because the port number is 8761. It will auto register with the Eureka. Then what about Eureka registration? If it will register, you no need to write this when the port number is 8761. If the port number is not 8761, then you need to write like this: eureka.client.service.url.default zone. If Eureka server is running on the port number something like 2222, then you need to write this property to register our backend API with Eureka server. But currently it is 8761, you no need to register. And register our API with the admin server. To register our API with the admin server, Spring Boot admin client URL property, we need to write it. Spring admin client URL. So what is your admin server URL? My admin server URL is http://localhost:1111. My admin server is running on the port number 1111. I will configure that URL. 1111 will be the port number of my admin server. Okay. Here I have configured this backend API port number is 9091. This backend API, whatever I'm creating the greet API, that greet API should register with the admin server. For that, I'm configuring admin server URL. And I want to enable actuator endpoints. For that, we need to go for endpoints configuration. Management.endpoints.web.exposure.include. We are configuring. In the actuators class, we discussed what is actuator and how to enable actuator endpoints. And for this application, I want to give one name, that is spring.application.name. So here, application name I'm giving as greet_API. So this is my greet API project. Now let me refresh this. Now we need to follow the order. Here I'm going to start my greet API. So greet API should register with Eureka, should register with the admin server, should register with the Zipkin server. Okay. Now with the service registry, it will auto register because the service registry port number 8761. With the admin server, manually we are registering by configuring admin server URL. My application is acting as the admin client application. It should register with the admin server. Actuators we need to enable so that those actuators we can monitor by using admin server. Zipkin dependency I have added. It should register with the Zipkin server. Let us see. First, let me run my service registry. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. My application started, which is having Eureka server. Clear the console. Now go to browser, localhost:8761. Let's access my Eureka server. My Eureka server is accessible. Currently, no application registered with my Eureka. You can see instances currently registered with Eureka is empty. No instances are available. No clients are available for my Eureka. Similarly, let me go here. Let me run my admin server project. Admin server project will run on the port number 1111. Go to the console and see it is started. Now localhost:1111. When I access my admin server, application count is 0. No applications are registered, but admin server is ready. Zipkin is already running as a jar file. In my Zipkin server also, currently when I run the query, no traces are available. I'm not able to get anything from the Jipkin also. Now I'm going to start my backend API. One backend REST API I have created. In this backend REST API, I configured one annotation called @enable discovery client. This should be registered with the Eureka server. Okay. In the YML, I configure admin URL and I configure actuator. Now let me add one REST controller in this application. In this backend API, let me add one REST controller class. @REST. I'm creating a REST controller called greet REST controller. I'm creating one REST controller called greet REST controller. In this, I'm writing one simple method, public string greet message. Greet message. So it is going to simply return a greet message as good evening. It will simply return one greet message as good evening. Let me bind this to a URL pattern, get mapping /greet. Now let me make this as a REST controller by using REST controller annotation. I'm making this as a REST controller by using an annotation called @REST controller. With this, my project is ready. Now, guys, before running my backend API, see Eureka. In the Eureka, no application available. See admin server, no application is available. See Jipkin server, no application is available. Now I am going to run my backend API called Greet API. Greet API will register with Eureka. Greet API will register with admin server. Greet API will register with the Jipkin server also. Now go here and run this. Greet API. Refresh this project. I configured YML file, maven updated the project. Refresh that project so that it will load the YML properties properly. Now REST controller is there. Okay, good. Right click, run as boot application. So with this, I'm starting my Greet API. Now see the behavior of Eureka, admin, and Jipkin. Greet API is started. What is the port number? I have given the port number as 9091. Now my application started. Go to Eureka, refresh Eureka. Can you see in the Eureka currently my Greet API is displaying? Guys, can you see in the Eureka my Greet API is displaying? That means what? It auto registered with the Eureka. Whatever the Greet API project I have created, that Greet API auto registered with the Eureka. How it got auto registered? Because in my Greet API, I have given one annotation called enable discovery client. This annotation will identify the Eureka server, which is running with the port number 8761. In my local system, Eureka server running on the port number 8761. That's why my Greet API is auto registered with the Eureka server. Now go to admin server. Can you see my Greet API is registered with the admin server also? Guys, can you see my Greet API registered with the admin server also? Can you see the Greet API in the admin dashboard? Yes or no? Yes, it registered with the admin dashboard. Now go to this Greet API. 1 minute ago it registered. Click on this bar and click on this bar. Here you have all the actuator endpoints. You don't need to remember what actuator endpoints are available in the Greet API. If you go to beans here, it will say what are the beans it loaded. If you go to the logger, what are the log messages are available? What is the root log level is available? Now I can change the log level without restarting my project. Currently in the Greet API, the root log level is info. I can change to error. So I can change the log level of my project without restarting the server. Go to mappings. What are the URL patterns available? Go to the cache, logger, insight. The complete application can be monitored and application can be managed by using admin server. So it is providing the UI in order to access actuator endpoints of our backend APIs. Now let us make a request to our backend API. Backend API is running on the port number 9091 read. I'm getting the message as good evening. Now go to Jipkin, run the query. Now see here in the Jipkin service name, let me add. The service name is not coming in the Jipkin because the Slate dependency is not added. So that's the reason our Jipkin is not able to trace that. The Jipkin is not able to trace that. We need to configure Slate dependency. As the Slate is not available, it is not working. Greet API, add this, run the query. No, I'm not able to get the search results here because one dependency is not added. Greet API, for this, search results are not coming. Settings, last 15 minutes. Yes, I can send that, run query. It is not working, guys. We will see how to add the Slate dependency so that the Jipkin will provide you. The Jipkin will provide you how much time it has taken to process each request. How much time it has taken to process each request, it is not coming because of the Slate is not added for that. We'll see that. So Jipkin is not able to show that because my application is missing one dependency. I will check it. Why that Slate is not coming in the boot creation, we'll see that. So now currently, are we able to develop one backend API? And are we able to register our backend API with Eureka and with admin server? Jipkin is not working. We will check that, guys. Are you able to understand how our project is registered with the Eureka server and how our project is registered with the admin server? Now tell me, what is the purpose of Eureka? This Eureka server will tell you what are the APIs available and what is the status of the API and what is the URL of the API. Admin server is used to monitor and manage all the APIs at one place. So this is my API URL. So when I go to this API, what is the environment? What are the beans loaded? What are the properties loaded? What are the tasks available? What are the loggers? What are the mappings? Complete application can be monitored by using admin server. Now, Jipkin server, it is used to trace which request has taken how much time to process. But currently, my application tracing is not happening because Slate dependency we have not added. It is not coming in the boot 2.7.0. We need to see how to add that Slate dependency manually. Clear, guys? So whatever I have done, I have given all these things. I have given all these things in the document. So by following this document, can you complete this setup as of now? Whatever I have done, I have done service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, Greet API. In the tomorrow's session, I will explain how to develop Welcome API and how to establish the communication between Greet API and Welcome API by using FIAN client. Are you clear with my point? If I discuss the remaining parts also, you will get confused. Will get confused. So I'm going to give you the time. I'm going to stop now. I will upload this document up to this Greet API development. I want you to complete. So how to develop the Welcome API, how to use inter-service communication. There's also steps I have given that we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session. How to establish inter-service communication. So once inter-service communication is completed, then we will go for API gateway. Got it? Fine. Any questions, anyone? As of now, you can ask me. Anybody having any questions?
So what is the
Creating the
use of
service
Jipkin
name?
server?
Creating the service name in uppercase is mandatory, sir.
No, sir. Just I have given that name. Whatever the name you give, that name will be displayed here.
Thank you, sir.
It is just for readability purpose.
Okay.
In the project, in the backend API, I'm giving what name it should display there. Spring.application.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
Sir, what is the use of Jipkin server?
I told you that, right? Jipkin server will give you the details of your request processing time. Currently, it is not working. I will get back with that in the tomorrow session.
Okay.
It will show you how much time it has taken to process your request. If the API processed your request, it will show you that information.
Sir,
Sir, what is
actuator and admin server is doing the same thing. So why we need admin server?
If you go for Actuator, will you get this kind of UI to monitor your endpoints, actuator endpoints?
No, there is a separately we have to see.
That's why this admin server will provide you the UI to monitor the actuators.
Only
Earlier,
these are the
Like
difference.
Swagger document.
earlier, how you monitor the actuator? You hit the URL in the browser to monitor that, right?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
no need to do that. This is the UI. All the APIs can be monitored at one place. It
Okay.
is used to monitor the actuators of your backend APIs at one place with user interface. Got it?
Sir,
Yeah.
admin is a like server, right now, sir?
Admin server. Yes, the name is
Yeah,
admin server.
but grid API we are registering like client in
Correct. Grid API is called as admin client. It is registering with the admin server.
okay.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, are these three servers are same for every microservice architecture?
I told you that, right? It's not mandatory. This
Okay.
is not the fixed architecture. Some people may not use Jipkin. Some people may not use admin. Some people may not use service registry. It's not mandatory. We are learning the concept. Some people will use, some people will not use. That is the reason I told there is no fixed architecture for the microservice.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
The server registrations, who will decide in projects, sir?
Architects will decide, sir. You will get the document. Yes. Fine, guys. Thank you. With this, I'm stopping for today. So please complete the 4 projects setup before coming to tomorrow's session. Service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, Grid API. In the tomorrow class, we will discuss welcome API and inter-service communication by using PN client. How one microservice will communicate with the another microservice, we'll discuss in the tomorrow class. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.